And I call on Stewart Stevenson to wind up. Minister, you have 7 minutes.
Thank you very much, Presiding Officer, and let me join others in thanking Ross Finney for the opportunity to debate this subject and congratulate him, Kenny Gibson and Annabel Goldie for their effective representation of their constituents' view. I think that's every member who has constituents. Let me just formally say that, as members will be aware, it's inappropriate for me to discuss the specifics of an active application such as Hunterston, which is currently subject to statutory consultation and consent procedures. To do so could be seen as preempting or prejudging any future decision yet to be made by my colleague, the Minister for Enterprise and Energy. However, in a moment, notwithstanding that, tonight's debate and the contributions of all members will be formally published tomorrow. Therefore, it can help inform decisions, whether by Council or by a Minister.
Gil Patterson.
It's in regards to what you can comment on, Minister. I wonder, can you comment on generating capacity in Scotland for Scotland? Is this, in my opinion, I wonder if you could comment on it. I think this is a debate we shouldn't be having, because any new capacity in Scotland would actually be for export. And I wonder if you're able to comment on that.
Minister.
I maybe will restrict my comments on that. I did notice the point that Willie Coffey made in his contribution, that we should most certainly not be generating electricity in a carbon-intensive way simply to export it. I do note that point without drawing any particular inference on any current planning applications. Decarbonisation of the electricity sector by 2030 is, of course, a vital prerequisite for meeting our 2050 target of an 80% reduction in emissions by 2050, and the rollout of CCS has a key part in meeting these important targets. However, let me just qualify that by saying that, of course, in terms of our 42% and how we count the numbers come from the operation of the European Emissions Trading Scheme. We already know what the numbers will be, and they are unrelated to what we actually do in the real world, which is why, of course, it's important we continue to pressure the EU to increase their target so that our numbers benefit from the actual work that we're doing on the ground in removing the CO2 in our energy generation. Ross Finney pointed to errors in his motion. We will not hold that in any sense against many of us who participated tonight. Reference has been made to the demonstrator and the decision that we're expecting, I think, in May next year. It is worrying to read, as others made reference to, in The Guardian, and I hope that Ross Finney and other Liberals will use their power and ability to influence ministers at the UK level to ensure that the £1 billion that is previously been promised for the demonstrator remains available, because that will be a very important matter indeed. There was a little bit of talk about SSIs. This is a recollection which I'm happy, if people care to write to me, to get the formal position on. I think, in fact, it's impossible when there's a planning application affecting an SSI for its status to be changed while that is in the case. But that is something that is not in my brief. I'm recalling that, and if we need a formal response, I can do that. Kenny Gibson points very importantly to the fact that gas has to be something we consider as well. We have a successful gas generation station at Peterhead, and we very much welcome indications that CCS for gas may be back on the agenda. He also pointed to CCS currently being a rather inefficient way of using energy. In other words, for every tonne that's used to create energy, a tonne is expended to generate energy to capture the resulting CO2. An interesting point. Lewis MacDonald, like others, said there is potential for 100% carbon capture in the future. That will be one of the tools available in our inventory of reducing energy production's carbon emissions. Annabel Goldie, I think, basically made the very same point and indicated that the Conservatives support clean coal and welcomed the roadmap the government has published. Liam MacArthur and Patrick Harvey both showed some scepticism as to whether CCS will ultimately deliver. That's a perfectly reasonable point to make, because of course none of us yet know whether it will, but that is why it's important that we do move forward with a demonstrator. Presiding Officer, it is important that we continue to work with the UK Government, because energy is only to a limited extent devolved to the Scottish Parliament. In particular, looking at how this ECS levy might touch on devolved powers to ensure Scottish-based projects benefit and are not merely a contributor. We are confident that Scotland stands to benefit from the funding from the new EU New Entrants Reserve allocation, which will begin in 2010. Another subject, we're driving forward academic research in CCS technologies with Scottish Enterprise and the Scottish Centre for Carbon Capture and Storage. And we're working with SEPA and other European environment agencies to exchange information. Partnering with the Scottish European Green Energy Centre, secure funding for several EU-funded research and development initiatives. Now, it is the case that currently it's unlikely that Scotland can meet its future energy needs without some form of thermal generation for some years to come. We do, of course, expect good penetration from renewables over the next decade, but there, of course, remain intermittency issues with a whole variety of renewable energy sources. So retrofitting our existing plants with CCS will be an important part of the way forward, and it's important we don't lose focus on that. We do recognise the challenges that lie ahead for CCS, but the opportunities for groundbreaking are considerable. We're committed to placing Scotland at the forefront of the development and deployment of CCS. That gives us a climate change benefit and creates a commercial and economic opportunity for us. We want to see Scottish-based companies and researchers in a leading position to benefit from the multi-million-pound worldwide market. We want to promote the North Sea as Europe's principal storage hub, noting the caveats that Patrick Harvey has entered, and we want to make sure that we do see large-scale demonstration projects in Scotland, ensuring that we get the ancillary and R&D services here in Scotland. Presiding Officer.
I now close this meeting.